Going down to Orlando with Alex Byington, the Alabama beat reporter for the Montgomery Advertiser. He's covering the Verbo Citrus Bowl. Good morning, Alex. How are you?
Doing good, Gary. How are yourself?
Great to have you on. Man, listen, I've been thinking, of course, I'm sitting up here in Tuscaloosa, but I've been trying to find some Jim Harbaugh sound. I was beginning to think the guy wasn't down there with him, but finally this morning for the coaches' press conference, both Harbaugh and Saban did show up. You covered it. Anything interesting from Harbaugh today?
Nothing groundbreaking from Jim. A lot of mutual respect among the coaches for both one another and each other's program. Obviously in those situations everybody's going to be pretty complimentary. So there's nothing too crazy. No oranges were thrown or anything of that nature. But Nick had a couple interesting things to say about, especially when the guy asked about Dylan's return and the draft evaluations that some of his juniors got back. It's been kind of interesting to hear kind of where those have stood and then Nick's thoughts on those. So that was probably the biggest takeaway from me.
Yeah, Alex, I was talking about this morning too, and it hasn't been the first time. He's alluded to this a couple times already, and then last night on his radio show just made it clear that these mock drafts aren't jiving with what he's being told from NFL personnel. I think he was frustrated last year, particularly with Mack Wilson's decision to come out, and in the last couple of years, as he said, if a guy's going to be a top 15 pick or even a first rounder, I see it. But otherwise, he thinks the player's doing himself a disservice. And I really sense this year that he's working feverishly behind the scenes to try to educate these juniors that are draft eligible as to whether or not they should come out. Is that the feeling that you're getting, that he's working hard to talk with some of these guys about staying and playing another year and increasing their value with the NFL?
I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, I think he's looking at it from a lot of different angles. Of course, just from a team aspect, obviously, so many juniors. He said there were 9 that they put in draft evaluations for. So, 9 different guys, 9 starters basically that could be lost, and that kind of exodus off a team that talented but was pretty injury decimated this year. I think is one of those things he knows if they come back, or at least half of them or a handful of them, they'll be so much better next year than they would be without them, obviously. So I think he's making them aware of their situations. He said today that he's just being honest with them. He wants them to have all the proper information and have all the knowledge that they can to make the right decision going in. I think you're right about he didn't like Mac leaving early. Obviously, that left some kind of forced some issues, and when Dylan got hurt, and Josh got hurt, to really left Alabama with no choice but to play the two true freshmen in the middle. And we saw that was a big issue with some of the defensive problems this year. So, I think he's trying to educate them, and you can tell he did admit there were several first-round grades for the guys, but really only one, he said last night, was a top 15 pick. And those are that's a lot of money in that top 15 picks compared to the bottom 15 to 17, I guess, in that first round. So he's making the guys aware what their place is, at least according to the people he's talking to. Kind of somewhat surprising because he hinted that one player was Tua.
Right.
Where regional thinking would think teams would possibly drop Tua a little bit because of his current injury and that status, the uncertainty there. At least when he can return, get back to work kind of thing. And a lot of people are pretty high on Jerry and some of the other receivers who I have no doubt when they get to the combine, whenever they go, they're just going to open some eyes and impress, probably even rise up those drafts. So, but, as it stands right now, before all that, he says there's only one with the top 15, and that was Tua. So, that kind of surprised me when I heard that the other night. So that's why I kind of asked him about his thoughts on that. And he gave us his thoughts on everything from what he did to get that information, and then a mock draft process, which he doesn't really like that. And he took a little shot at my personal draft evaluation skills. So that was interesting.
Alex Byington from the Montgomery Advertiser with us here. He's in Orlando covering the Verbo Citrus Bowl. Yeah, and there seems to be, Alex, a lot of momentum building down there that a lot of these juniors are going to come back. Of course, Moses making the announcement, and there's even a lot of buzz about Tua. And then Alabama this morning, the Alabama football account, and you retweeted it, put out a very clever GIF of dominoes literally falling, which leads you to believe, that's a play on Dylan Moses' decision. And do you get the sense that a number of these guys that we might have previously felt like would go on to the NFL will come back now and play next year at Alabama?
I think that's a really high possibility. And honestly, since the injury, I personally thought Tua would be better served kind of coming back. There are a lot of uncertainties, with his hip, and that would give him a lot of time to rehab in a place where he's comfortable and able to do all he needs to do with people that he's comfortable rehabbing around. There's obviously some of the best equipment facilities in the country as far as Division I colleges at Alabama, so he's not going to lack for any of that. It's one more year where he gets to prove that he's healthy, whereas if he were to leave now, there would be all these questions. And you know how NFL teams, put out information, and a lot of times, sometimes, put out false information, try to, kind of move the needle on guys maybe they're hoping will fall to them, or things like that. And I don't think Tua really wants to go through some of that right now, especially with some of the uncertainty. So I wouldn't be surprised one bit if he's one of the guys that decides to come back and feel like, as Dylan Moses said in his Instagram message, that there's some unfinished business to do. I mean, you can tell there's a disappointment this season, and a lot of players kind of don't want to go out like that. They have too much pride and too much desire, competitive desire to go out and be the best and improve it. So, I think Tua is certainly a candidate to come back or go pro, and have obviously several others like the receivers. I think there's probably 3 or 4 that are certain to leave, and obviously 2 have already left. But I think the next few days after this bowl game could be quite interesting.
Wrapping up with Alex Byington from the Montgomery Advertiser in Orlando. You've been down there with the team. You've been watching the practices. You've been around the guys. I think a lot of people, coming out of the Auburn game, first of all, didn't know how many players would sit out. Only 2, Diggs and Lewis. I think a lot of fans were concerned that Alabama a couple of times in these bowl games, seemingly, according to Saban, weren't focused and their minds weren't in the right place to go play in the game after they didn't make it into either the BCS championship game or the playoff. And, of course, this is the first time not to be in the playoff. What's your sense with this team in terms of their practice and preparation? Do you think they're dialed in, focused, and will be ready to go?
It seems like they're really motivated. Again, it's Nick says this all the time, but, the greatest motivator is the loss. And getting the team to kind of readjust and focus. Losing that Iron Bowl was probably not something anybody at Alabama wanted to do or thought was a good idea, but obviously it'll probably motivate them in this situation to come out and be prepared and go to practice. And Nick's already kind of said today that he's seen a good response from his players, especially the young guys, kind of having the extra practices to get adjusted and kind of, get into the right mindset. It sounds like, again, from everything Nick is saying and some of the other players, the players have spoken themselves all week about how, motivated and how they're ready for this game. They're kind of going, they sound a little upset about the way the season turned out. And, rightfully so, and it sounds like they're going to try and maybe take it out of Michigan somewhat like they did in Michigan State when they were last in the Citrus Bowl in 2010 or 11. So, it sounds like they're pretty motivated for that.
We'll find out tomorrow, folks. You can read Alex Byington in the Montgomery Advertiser and also follow him on Twitter at _Alex Byington. That's BYINGTON. Enjoy the game. Thanks a lot, Alex.
My pleasure, Gary. Take care.